August 19th, 1944. The road north of Troon, France. The air itself is tearing apart. The sky over the Falaise pocket is a black swarm of Allied Yabos, Typhoon and Thunderbolt fighter bombers that dive with a high-pitched banshee wail. For Obergefreiter Erich Müller, huddled in a ditch, the world has shrunk to the mud in front of his face and the concussive force of artillery that shakes his teeth. He is 20 years old. He is a veteran of the 7th Army, and he is utterly defeated. His Carabiner 98K rifle is hopelessly fouled with grime, its bolt seized. His Stahlhelm is gone, lost in the frantic scramble from the last burning half-track. All around him is the wreckage of what was once the most feared military machine on Earth. Horses, shot to pieces, lie tangled in the harnesses of artillery caissons. S-tanks are blackened, skeletal hulks, their hatches blown open like burst seed pods. The stench of cordite, diesel, and death is overwhelming. Raus! Raus! Hände hoch! The voices are not German. They are loud, guttural, and terrifyingly close. Eric's hands fly up, shaking. He pushes himself slowly from the ditch. Standing before him is not the degenerate, half-starved gangster from Die Deutsche Wochenschau newsreels. The American GI is tall. He is clean-shaven, despite the mud on his M1 Garand. His uniform is intact. He is chewing something, rhythmically, his jaw working as he sizes up the German. Move it, Kraut. On your feet. Schnell. Eric joins a shuffling column of gray uniforms. It's a river of defeated men. A Hauptmann with the Knight's Cross at his throat, his face a mask of disbelief. A 15-year-old Flakhelfer from the Hitlerjugend, weeping openly. An old Volkssturm conscript, his face vacant. They are marched west, away from the thunder of the front. The humiliation is a physical weight. French villagers emerge from shattered homes, not to cheer, but to spit. They yell, "Boche! Salop!" Their eyes are flint hard. Days blur into a mechanized process. They are stripped of their sold books, their letters, their belts, anything that could be used as a weapon or a means of escape. They are dusted with white delousing powder that stings their skin and burns their eyes. They are herded into vast open-air barbed wire enclosures on the coast, filthy, rain-soaked pens dubbed misery cages. Here, the rumors begin. The Eastern Front veterans whisper of Siberia, of mines, of death by starvation. What will the Americans do? The answer comes not in words, but in steel. The order is given. They are marched from the cages, up a wooden ramp, and into the cavernous, dark belly of a Liberty ship. The sheer scale of the vessel is terrifying. As the last man steps inside, a massive steel hatch clangs shut, plunging thousands of men into near-total darkness. The sound of the locks engaging is final. The thrum of the engines vibrates through the floor. The ship lurches. They are at sea. For 10 days, they are cargo. Packed shoulder to shoulder in the holds, they endure the endless, sickening roll of the North Atlantic. The air becomes foul with the sour tang of sweat and vomit. Men pray, men curse. The ultimate irony hangs over them all. The U-boot Waffe, their own navy, is out there, hunting ships just like this one. A torpedo from a German submarine would be their tomb. Then, on the 11th day, the engines slow. The vibration stops. There is a long silence, a groan of hydraulics. Light, blinding, shocking daylight floods the hold as the main hatch grinds open. The call rings out. And deck, everybody, topside, move. Erich Müller shields his eyes, stumbling up the ladder with the others. He steps out onto the steel deck, and the salt spray hits his face. He squints against the sun, his eyes struggling to focus on the impossible sight before him. It is not a harbor. It is not a port. It is a city of impossible geometric towers rising into the sky. It is a skyline he has seen only in propaganda films. A fellow prisoner grabs his arm, his voice a dry rasp of awe and terror. Mein Gott, es ist New York. The words hang in the air, a mixture of awe and poison. This is the arsenal of democracy, and it is untouched. There are no flak towers, no blackened shells of cathedrals, no mountains of rubble where families used to live. The city pulses with electricity, traffic, and a staggering, arrogant vitality. It is the city that has been building the bombers and tanks that just destroyed their world. The humiliation deepens. They are herded off the ship, not by combat soldiers, but by crisp military police, the snowdrops as they're called, with their white helmets and belts. The process is brutally efficient. They are marched to a processing center, perhaps Camp Shanks, just up the Hudson. Here, the transformation from soldat to POW is finalized. They are photographed, fingerprinted, and issued new clothing, U.S. Army fatigues, dyed a distinct dark blue with the letters PW stenciled in white paint on their backs and trouser legs. It is a uniform of surrender. Then, the journey. Eric Miller, now prisoner 81G 291808, is shoved into a line and marched onto a train platform. He expects a cattle car, the same kind his own army used to move prisoners and undesirables across Europe. He braces for the stench, the straw, the crush of bodies. Instead, he is looking at a passenger car, a Pullman. He steps inside. The guards motion for them to sit, 2 men to a bench. The seats are cushioned, upholstered in green velvet. They are worn, but they are seats. Outside the window, civilians walk past, glancing at the train with mild curiosity before buying newspapers and moving on. A whistle shrieks. With a groan of steam and a lurch, the train begins to move. It slides out of the industrial yards, past the skyscrapers, and into a landscape that defies all logic. For 3 days, Eric and the other men are glued to the windows, their silence broken only by muttered exclamations. This is the enemy homeland. Where are the craters? Where is the rationing? They pass through towns in Pennsylvania and Ohio. The houses are made of wood, painted bright colors, each with its own patch of green grass. There are no communal bomb shelters. Children, clean and well-dressed, wave at the train. But it is the food that breaks them. Twice a day, American guards walk down the aisle. They don't distribute thin soup or a brick of black Kriegsbrat bread, made heavy with sawdust. They hand each prisoner a box. Inside, sandwiches made with thick-cut white bread, meat, a piece of fruit, sometimes a bar of chocolate. A lieutenant from a panzer division, a man who had held the line at Caen, holds up the white bread, staring at it. "This is what they feed their dogs," he whispers, not in anger, but in sheer, profound disbelief. They are eating better as prisoners than they had as frontline soldiers in the Wehrmacht. The train thunders on across the Mississippi. The land opens up. It is vast, flat, and endless. They are crossing Oklahoma. The scale of the continent is a weapon in itself. There is nowhere to run. The guards are relaxed. They read magazines, smoke cigarettes. They are not the battle-hardened GIs from Normandy. They are older, some with pot bellies. One guard, seeing the Germans stare at the passing farmland, pulls a pack of Lucky Strikes from his pocket. He offers one to a prisoner. The German, wary, shakes his head. The guard just shrugs, lights his own, and says, "Suit yourself, Fritz." Finally, the train's brakes hiss. They have stopped at a small, dusty depot. The sign reads, Alva. Alle raus, end of the line, let's go. They are marched in columns of 4, down a paved road, their blue PW uniforms already dark with sweat under the crushing sun. and then they see it. It rises from the flat prairie, a city of wire and wood. Camp Alva. It is not a temporary cage. It is a massive, sprawling complex of tar paper barracks, laid out in perfect military precision. Guard towers stand at every corner, their machine guns glinting. Beyond the double set of barbed wire fences, the American flag ripples in the hot, dry wind. An American Hauptmann, a captain, stands at the gate holding a clipboard. As they are counted through, one by one, he looks bored. "Welcome to Oklahoma, gentlemen," he says to no one in particular. "You're going to be here for a while." The heavy wire gate groans shut behind them. The sound is metallic and final. Eric Miller and the others are marched onto a wide, dusty parade ground. The camp is laid out with the cold geometry of a blueprint. Barracks, 6-man huts, and larger administrative buildings stretch out in neat rows, all constructed from pine and tar paper. It is clean. There is no mud, only fine red dust that gets into everything. An American, sergeant, this one with a thick German-American accent, barks orders. "You will be divided into compounds. Each compound will have its own mess hall, its own latrine, its own barracks. You will elect a Lagersprecher, a camp spokesman, to bring grievances. Listen up." The men are exhausted, but they stand at a semblance of attention. The commandant of Camp Alva, a graying full-bird colonel, steps onto a small wooden platform. He holds no weapon, just a sheaf of papers. "Gentlemen," the translator begins, his voice amplified by a crackling loudspeaker. "By the authority of the United States Army, I welcome you to Camp Alva. This is a permanent camp. This is not a temporary collection point." He pauses, letting the words sink in. This facility is operated in strict accordance with the 1929 Geneva Convention. You are prisoners of war. You are not criminals. You will be treated as such. A murmur ripples through the ranks. In the Wehrmacht, the Geneva Convention was something you learned about in a pamphlet and promptly forgot. On the Eastern Front, it was a fantasy. You will be afforded proper quarters. You will receive medical and dental care. You will be given hot showers. This causes a visible reaction. Hot water? Not a pump in a frozen field? Eric thinks of the lice, the filth, the accumulated grime of the Falaise pocket. The translator continues, "You will be issued 3 hot meals per day, equivalent in quality and quantity to those of our own garrison troops." This is met with silence. It is so absurd, it must be a lie, a psychological trick. Per Article 27 of the Convention, enlisted men, that is, Gefreiter through Unteroffizier, may be required to work. You will work. This area has a severe shortage of agricultural labor. You will harvest wheat. You will cut timber. A predictable groan. So, this is it, slave labor. However, the loudspeaker crackles, per Article 34, you will be paid for this work. The silence is now absolute. Eric turns his head slightly, looking at the man next to him. Did the translator misspeak? Your wage will be 80 cents per day. This will not be paid in U.S. currency. It will be paid in camp scrip, valid only at the post exchange. Post exchange? 80 cents? An Obergefreiter in the Wehrmacht made 72 Reichspfennig a day, and that was to get shot at. This is more. At the PX, the canteen, you may use your wages to purchase tobacco, candy, soap, writing paper, and Coca-Cola. The name of the sweet brown soda is spoken like an incantation. It is the symbol of the enemy, the taste of this impossible, rich continent. Your compounds will organize their own activities. We will provide the equipment, football leagues, handball. We have a theater for plays. We have instruments for an orchestra. The commandant finishes. That is all. You are now in the custody of the 8th Service Command. Sergeant, process them. The next 48 hours are a fever dream of bureaucratic civilization. Eric is handed a small metal tag with his number, 81G 29188. He is assigned to Barracks 14, Compound C. He is handed a mess kit, 2 blankets, a bar of lye soap, and a razor. Then he is marched to the delousing station. But instead of the stinging white powder, he is pointed toward a concrete building. He steps inside. The air is thick with steam. A row of showerheads lines the wall, gushing pressurized hot water. For 10 minutes, Eric Muller stands under the spray, scrubbing off months of war, letting the water run over his scalp and sting his eyes. It feels like an absolution. It is the first moment the panic and adrenaline of the past year have truly left him. That night, in the mess hall, they are served beef stew, thick slices of the infamous white bread, potatoes, and a cup of black, bitter, real coffee. Men who had stormed Stalingrad weep quietly into their tin cups. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. This is prison, yet it is better than the front. A few days later, after his first exhausting day in a wheat field, back-breaking, monotonous work under a sun that felt like a physical weight, Eric explores the camp. He still wears his blue PW uniform, but he is clean and he is fed. He passes a simple wooden hut, no different from the barracks, but a sign is painted neatly on the door. Library. He stops. This, more than the coffee or the hot water, is the strangest part. He pushes the door open. It's quiet. The room smells of paper and pine. The shelves are filled with books. A fellow prisoner, an older Feldwebel, sergeant, with spectacles, is sitting at a desk, stamping a card. Eric walks the stacks. He sees Goethe, Schiller, Nietzsche, the German classics, likely donated by German-American communities. But then he sees another section. American books, translated into German. He picks one up. Früchte des Zorns. The Grapes of Wrath. He's heard of this. It's propaganda, surely, meant to show the poverty of America. He picks up another. Vom Winde verweht. Gone with the wind. He takes the Steinbeck novel to the desk. The prisoner librarian doesn't look up. Number? 81G 29188. The Feldwebel takes a small blank card, writes the number on it, and hands it to Eric. Was ist das? Eric asks. A library card, the man says, annoyed. What does it look like? You have 2 weeks. Eric walks out into the blinding Oklahoma sun, holding the book. He has a wage. He has hot showers. And now, in the middle of a war, surrounded by barbed wire, he has been issued a library card. Eric Muller walks back to Barracks 14, the small, hard-backed book heavy in his hand. The barracks is not a concrete bunker or a filthy trench. It is a long room of raw pine, smelling of new-cut wood and the faint, ever-present red dust. He has a cot, with a mattress filled with straw and 2 U.S. Army issue wool, blankets. He sits, the springs groaning beneath him. He opens Früchte des Zorns. He reads for hours, his dictionary, bought with his first week's scrip, by his side. It is a revelation. The propaganda ministry in Berlin had insisted America was a failed state, hollowed out by Jewish bankers and degenerate culture. And this book, written by an American, details profound, grinding poverty. It speaks of families losing their land, of starvation, of being treated like animals. It is, he thinks, powerful propaganda for the Reich. But then, a terrible, confusing realization dawns on him, the poverty of the Jode family. They owned a truck, a broken-down, sputtering Hudson sedan converted into a truck, but a motor vehicle nonetheless. Eric's family in Bavaria, respected farmers, had 1 horse and a wagon. The poorest, most destitute family in this American book possessed a level of mechanical power that was the preserve of the Wehrmacht officer class. The cognitive dissonance is a physical ache. What then is the truth? The camp routine solidifies, taking on the rhythm of a strange parallel life. The whistle shrieks at 0500 hours. Appel. Roll call in the pre-dawn chill. The Americans are efficient, counting them off, their breath pluming in the air. Then breakfast. Not thin, ersatz coffee made from roasted acorns. Real coffee, strong and bitter. Oatmeal. Sometimes scrambled eggs. Arbit, work details. Let's go. Eric is assigned to an agricultural detail. He and 30 other PWs are loaded into the back of a canvas-topped GMC-2 1-2-ton truck, a deuce and a half. The guards, Smitty and Pike, are older men, National Guard. Their M1 rifles are slung casually over their shoulders. They seem more bored than threatening. The truck rumbles out of the main gate, past the wire. This is the most disorienting part. They are outside. They drive for 20 minutes deep into the American heartland. The sheer, staggering emptiness of Oklahoma is a better prison than any fence. There is nowhere to run to. They arrive at a vast, flat field of peanuts. A civilian, a farmer named Jackson, waits by a tractor. His face is leathered by the sun, his eyes wary. His own son is over there, somewhere in Italy. The work is brutal. It is backbreaking, monotonous labor under a sun that feels like a physical hammer. They dig, they haul, they sweat. This is no holiday. At noon, the farmer's wife, a stern woman in a floral print dress, emerges from the farmhouse. She carries a metal tray. On it are a dozen glasses filled with ice and amber liquid, lemonade. The prisoners stop, staring. The guards nod. Go on, take it. Eric takes a glass. It is cold, shockingly cold, and intensely sweet. He drinks it in 3 gulps. The farmer's wife looks at them, not with hatred, but with a kind of pitying curiosity. She takes the empty glasses and goes back inside. At the end of the week, they line up. A sergeant sits at a folding table, a metal box in front of him. Miller, Eric, 81G 29188, 5 days work, $4. He is handed $4, not in greenbacks, but in paper coupons. Scrip, bearing the name Camp Alva. That evening, the post exchange is open. It is a madhouse. The hut is packed with blue-uniformed prisoners, all spending their new wages. The air is thick with smoke and anticipation. And the shelves. They are a museum of American decadence. Lucky Strike, Camel, and Chesterfield cigarettes, Pepsodent toothpaste, Brill cream for their hair, writing tablets, and in a refrigerated case, glass bottles of Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, and 3.2% beer. Eric waits in line, script clutched in his hand. He gets to the front. Einmal Coca-Cola, bitte. He is handed the iconic fluted bottle, beaded with condensation. He pays his 10 cents. He steps outside into the cooling dusk, pops the cap on the opener, nailed to the wall, and takes a sip. The sugary, carbonated shock is overwhelming. It is the taste of New York, of the clean-shaven GIs, of this entire impossible country. He is enjoying his wage. He is enjoying his drink. And this is when he is confronted. It tastes good, yes, the poison of the capitalist. Eric turns. It is Oberleutnant Strasser, a pilot from the Luftwaffe, still impeccably arrogant even in a PW uniform. He is flanked by 2 men from a U-boot crew, their faces hard. They are the true believers. It is just a drink, Eric says, lowering the bottle. It is a betrayal, Strasser hisses, his voice low. You read their degenerate books. You drink their sugar water. You work their fields. You forget who you are. You forget that they are firebombing Hamburg right now. Strasser gestures to the library. That is not education. That is Umerziehung, re-education. They are trying to turn you from a German soldier into an American farmer. The U-boot men step closer. In the camp, the real guards are not just the Americans in the towers. They are the hard-line Nazis inside the wire, who enforce a shadow discipline, who hold secret tribunals, who see any cooperation as treason. Eric looks at the bottle in his hand. He looks at Strasser's burning eyes. "They are not firebombing me, Herr Oberleutnant," Eric says quietly. "I am here." Strasser's face darkens. "You are soft. You are all becoming soft. When we return, the Führer will remember who kept the faith and who did not." He and his men turn and stalk off into the growing darkness, leaving Eric alone with his book, his wages, and his cold bottle of Coke. November 12th, 1944, Camp Alva, Oklahoma. The sound of chalk striking a blackboard. Inside a long, uninsulated pine barracks, it is freezing. 150 German prisoners are packed onto rough wooden benches, their blue PW uniforms layered with every piece of clothing they own. They hunch forward, their breath fogging in the cold, their eyes fixed on the man at the front. This is Barracks 21, designated as the camp university. The instructor is not an American. He is Professor Dr. Heinrich Grau, who once held the chair of philology at Heidelberg. Captured in Cherbourg, he now teaches English beginners to his fellow Kameraden. The verb to have, Grau announces, his voice formal. "I have a book. You have a wage. He has a cigarette." Eric Miller, sitting in the third row, dutifully copies the conjugations onto his paper tablet, purchased for 2 cents at the PX. The pencil feels strange in his calloused fingers. By day, he is a field hand. By night, he is a student. This is the central absurdity of Camp Alva. The Americans, in their strict adherence to the Geneva Convention, provided the means for self-improvement, and the Germans, with their unyielding discipline, organized it. The camp has become a microcosm of a Germany that no longer exists. In the next barracks, a Kriegsmarine engineer teaches trigonometry and advanced calculus. In the mess hall, after hours, an acting troupe rehearses Faust. The man playing Mephistopheles is a former U-boot navigator, and he plays the part with a terrifying, nihilistic rage. A camp orchestra, using instruments provided by the YMCA, practices Beethoven's Fifth. The da-da-da-dum, the sound of V for victory, drifts with bitter irony across the wired compounds. The Americans don't just allow this, they encourage it. They see it as a productive way to manage 4,000 bored, healthy enemy soldiers. But Oberleutnant Strasser and his true believers see it differently. To them, the English classes are acceptable, a way to know the enemy. The mathematics, the engineering, this is advanced Wehrmacht training, keeping the mind sharp for the return to the Reich. The Beethoven is German Kultur, a defiance, but other influences are creeping in. The camp library, now managed by Eric, has received a new shipment of books. For Whom the Bell Tolls. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and magazines. Life. The Saturday Evening Post. The prisoners pore over them, not for the articles, but for the advertisements. They stare, mesmerized, at the Technicolor pictures of gleaming new automobiles that families own. They see women smiling, holding complex electrical appliances, refrigerators, washing machines. Propaganda, Strasser declares in the mess hall, loud enough for all to hear. They show you these trivialities to make you forget your duty. They try to buy your soul with lipstick and Jell-O. The division in the camp deepens. It is no longer just about survival. It is about the future. One faction, the largest, is like Eric. The Realisten. They work, they study English, They save their scrip. They play football on the vast new pitch, the Africa Corps survivors versus the Normandy newcomers. The game are brutal, a surrogate for the war, played for stakes of cigarettes and pride. They are surviving. Another faction, the smallest, are the Antifascisten, men who held their tongues for years under the Reich. They quietly signal to the American guards, identifying the hardliners. And then there is Strasser's group, the Unbeugsamen, the Unbreakables. They see the amenities not as a comfort, but as a test of ideological purity, and they see that they are failing. One evening, a young prisoner, a 19-year-old named Karl, makes a mistake. He has been trading scrip with one of the guards for a pack of real American playing cards, the ones with bicycle backs. He is caught by Strasser's men behind the latrine. Eric is in his bunk, trying to read Hemingway, when the barracks door is kicked open. It is not the American guards. It is Strasser and 4 of his U-boot crew. They are not wearing their blue PW uniforms. They are wearing their Kriegsmarine tunics, the iron crosses and U-boat badges still pinned to their chests. It is a flagrant violation of camp rules. They move to Karl's bunk. They drag him out, his feet scrambling on the wooden floor. "So," Strasser's voice is calm, chilling. "You prefer their games? Their money?" "It was just cards, Herr Oberleutnant," Karl pleads. "You are a German soldier. You do not trade with the enemy. You fight them." They drag him outside. The rest of the barracks is silent. Every man is awake and every man is staring at the ceiling, pretending to be asleep. They hear the sounds, a wet, sickening thud, a muffled cry, another thud. It lasts for 5 minutes. They throw Karl back inside. His face is a ruin. His nose is broken, and one eye is swollen shut. "Let this be a lesson in Umerziehung," Strasser says to the darkened room. "We are still soldiers. This is not America. This is Deutschland." He and his men leave. The next morning, at Appell, the American guards see Karl's face. They pull him from the line. "What happened to you, son?" the sergeant asks. Karl, his one good eye staring at Strasser's back, says, "I fell. In the dark. I tripped on the steps." The sergeant sighs. He knows it's a lie. But the wall of prisoner silence is total. Eric Miller looks down. The Americans may be the jailers. They provide the food, the books, the wages. But inside the wire, the Reich is still in control. April 16th, 1945. Camp Alva. The teletype machine in the commandant's office chatters incessantly. The news is a finality. The Red Army is in the suburbs of Berlin. The Western Allies have crossed the Elbe. The Reich, which was to last 1,000 years, is in its death agony. But inside the wire, propaganda is a more durable fortress than concrete. Oberleutnant. Strasser and his Unbeugsamen hold court in the mess hall. They are energized by a manic, desperate faith. "You hear the rumors," Strasser preaches to the men, his eyes alight. "But I tell you, this is the Endkampf, the final battle. The Führer is pulling the Allies and the Bolsheviks into a trap. The Wunderwaffen, the miracle weapons, are being unleashed as we speak. We will be home by Christmas, as victors." Some men nod, clinging to the fantasy. Eric Miller, however, is in the library, pasting new Red Cross routing labels onto outgoing mail. He has stopped listening to Strasser. He is listening to the American guards, who talk openly of Roosevelt's death and the push for Berlin. He is reading the American newspapers, which the camp authorities have suddenly made available, no longer fearing for the prisoners' morale. His English is good now. He can read the headlines. Rhine crossed. Ruhr pocket collapses. 300,000 Germans surrender. The numbers are so vast they lose meaning. Then mail call. This time the letters are different. They are not the cheerful, censored notes from 1944. The V-mail is haggard, the handwriting shaky. Erich gets a letter from his aunt in Dresden. It is dated February 20th. He sits on his cot, his hands shaking as he unfolds the thin paper. It is short. He reads it once. He reads it again. The words blur. Your uncle is gone. Your cousins are gone. The city, Die Stadt. It is not a city. It is a stone pit. It burned for 7 days. Thousands, tens of thousands. We live in the cellar. There is no food. The sky is black. Why? Why? He doesn't go to the wheat fields that day. He reports to the infirmary, claiming sickness. He sits in his bunk, staring at the raw pine of the wall. The library book lies unread at his feet. The Coca-Cola tastes like ash. The American Camp Administration, now operating under a new directive, begins a mandatory re-education program. It is no longer about cultural exchange. It is about denazification. Achtung, Achtung, all compounds, form up at the mess hall immediately. Alle Mann sofort. The prisoners are marched, compound by compound, into the main recreation hall. The windows are blacked out with blankets. A 16mm film projector stands in the back, whirring. Strasser and his men are forced into the front rows by MPs armed with M1 rifles and fixed bayonets. The mood is tense, defiant. Another Jewish lie, Strasser mutters, loud enough for his section to hear. The commandant stands at the front. What you're about to see, the translator announces, his voice flat, is official footage, filmed by the U.S. Army Signal Corps, the British, and the Soviets. It has been verified. Turn out the lights. The projector flickers. The first images are shaky, black and white. Koblenz, Cologne, Hamburg. Cities that are no longer cities. They are moonsaps of rubble. Skeletal cathedrals stand over oceans of pulverized brick. The prisoners are quiet. They have seen this before in their letters. This is war. Then the film cuts. A new title card appears. Buchenwald. The images that follow are not of war. They are of something else. They see the GIs. They look horrified, sick. They are forcing local German civilians, dressed in their Sunday best, to walk through a gate. Arbeit macht frei. The film shows the prisoners, but they are not prisoners like Erich. They are skeletons, draped in striped rags. Their eyes are vast, hollow pits in emaciated faces. They stare at the camera, chewing on bread given to them by soldiers. A murmur of disbelief sweeps the room. Actors, someone whispers, propaganda. The film cuts again. A bulldozer. It is pushing a pile. But the pile is not dirt. It is a tangle of white, emaciated limbs, arms and legs, heads, a mass grave. A prisoner in the back row vomits, the sound wet and shocking in the silence. The camera moves, relentless, into a concrete room. It shows shower heads on the ceiling. It pans down to show scratches on the concrete walls. It shows the ovens. It shows the piles of shoes, thousands of shoes, children's shoes. It shows piles of human hair, gold teeth. The hall is utterly, tomb-like, silent. The only sound is the click, click, click of the projector. Erich is gripping the bench, his knuckles white. He looks at Strasser. The Oberleutnant is no longer arrogant. He is not defiant. He is staring at the screen, his face the color of wet ash. He is trembling. A slight, uncontrollable shudder. His entire reality, his Führer, his Reich, his clean Wehrmacht war, has been incinerated by the light of the projector. The film ends. The lights snap on, painfully bright. No one moves. The men sit stunned, broken. The smell of vomit is thick in the air. The commandant steps forward again. That, the translator says, his own voice shaking, is what you were fighting for. The hardliners, The unbreakables are broken. The shadow government within Camp Alva is dead. 2 weeks later, on May 8th, 1945, the announcement comes over the camp loudspeakers. It is simple. It is final. Attention, all prisoners. As of 2301 hours, Berlin time, the German High Command has surrendered unconditionally to the Allied forces. The war in Europe is over. Erich Müller stands on the dusty parade ground. He is a prisoner. He is a disarmed enemy. But he is no longer a soldier. He is just a German. And he is 4,000 miles from a home that no longer exists. July 21st, 1945, a peanut field, 10 miles outside Camp Alva. The sun is a white fire. The heat is 104 degrees in the shade, and there is no shade. The red dust is a permanent, gritty film on Erich Müller's skin, a second uniform. The war is over, and nothing has changed. The whistle still shrieks at 0500. The Appell is still held, though the American sergeants seem to count with a new bored indifference. The deuce and a half still rumbles up to the compound gate. The PWs still climb in. Eric works the hoe, the rhythmic thwack and scrape, the only sound besides the drone of cicadas. He is weeding a field for Farmer Jackson. But the entire dynamic has shifted. The guards, Smitty and Pike, no longer sit on the truck tailgate, their M1 rifles across their laps. Their rifles are in the truck's cab, gathering dust. Smitty is sitting on the ground, sharing a thermos of lukewarm water with the farmer, Jackson. They are talking, not about the war, but about the price of feed. The barbed wire fence is still there. The guard towers are still manned. But the electricity, the prisoners whisper, has been turned off. The Americans are no longer guarding enemy combatants. They are babysitting a foreign labor force. The real change is inside the wire. Oberleutnant. Strasser is a ghost. The screening of the Buchenwald film did not just break his spirit, it annihilated his identity. He no longer wears his illicit medals. He no longer preaches of Wunderwaffen. He sits at the back of the mess hall, alone, meticulously cleaning his mess kit over and over, his eyes vacant. The shadow government of the Reich has dissolved. In its place, a new obsession has taken root. Zukunft, the future. The camp university has been utterly transformed. The classes on military tactics and Beethoven are gone. The English class, which Eric once attended, is now standing room only, with 300 men trying to cram into a barracks built for 60. They are not just learning, I have a book. They are practicing phrases. I am a skilled mechanic. Where is the employment office? The American Camp Command, in partnership with the YMCA and religious aid groups, actively encourages this. They are no longer re-educating for the war. They are retraining for the peace. New classes appear on bulletin boards, typed in German, Principles of American Democracy, Vocational Carpentry, Modern Agricultural Techniques. Eric finds himself in the agriculture class, taught by a fast-talking officer from the U.S. Soil Conservation Service. He listens, fascinated, as the American explains contour plowing, crop rotation, and chemical fertilizers, concepts that are science fiction to his Bavarian farming background. He takes notes. He is, just as Strasser once fearfully predicted, becoming an American farmer. He still has his library card. He still checks out books. But he is no longer reading Steinbeck for the story. He is reading it to understand the mechanics of the Hudson truck. The wages continue. The 80 cents a day. The scrip. But the PX is now better stocked. The men, with nothing else to spend their money on, have accumulated small fortunes. They buy everything. They buy cartons of cigarettes, cases of Coca-Cola. They buy hair tonic, writing paper, and candy bars, hoarding them under their cots. Then The first letters from the occupation zones arrive. Mail call is no longer a moment of relief. It is a time of terror. The letters, when they come, are skeletal. They are written on scraps of paper, the ink blurred. They speak of a Germany that is not a nation, but a rubble field. They speak of the hunger winter of 45-46. Eric's aunt writes again, "We live in the cellar. There is no glass. We burn the furniture to stay warm. We eat potatoes, if we are lucky. The Russians are in the next town. Do not come home. Stay where you are. Stay in America." A profound, sickening guilt settles over the camp. The men look at their healthy bodies. They look at the hot meals they are served 3 times a day. They look at their bunks, their warm blankets, their wages. They look at the overflowing trash cans behind the mess hall, filled with leftover white bread, a sight that would cause a riot in Berlin. This is the true, final, and most unbearable torture of the Golden Cage. They are the defeated, yet they are the victors of survival. They are safe, fed, and healthy, while their wives, their children, and their parents are starving in the ruins of the Heimat. The work continues. The heat, the monotony, the waiting. The men are desperate, not to escape, but to be released. Finally, in the spring of 1946, a new sign appears. It is a list. Repatriation schedule, Compound C. The men crowd around it, a frantic, silent mass. Eric pushes his way through. He scans the columns. There, halfway down the 3rd page, Mueller. Eric, 81G 29188. His name is on the list. He is going home, May 14th, 1946, Camp Alva, Oklahoma. The main gate of the camp is wide open. There is no ceremony, no speeches. This is not a release. It is an administrative process, a liquidation of assets. Erich Müller stands on the parade ground for the last time. His blue PW uniform, stenciled with the white letters that had defined his existence, is gone. In its place, he wears a shapeless, scratchy, single-breasted wool suit dyed a drab brown. It is an exit suit, provided by the U.S. Army. He is also handed a small cardboard box containing a new shirt, 2 pairs of socks, a safety razor, and a bar of soap. He is no longer prisoner, 81G 29188. He is disarmed enemy forces. The men are called one by one to a final table. The same sergeant who once handed out 10-cent script coupons now sits behind a heavy metal cash box. "Müller, Eric." Eric steps forward. "You have an account balance of $142.20, the sergeant says, not looking up from his ledger. "Sign here." Eric signs the paper. The sergeant counts out the money. Not scrip, not coupons. He counts out crisp, green, impossible-to-believe U.S. dollar bills. A 10, 4 20s, 50s. It is a fortune. It is more real money than he has ever held in his life. He carefully folds the bills and puts them in the inner pocket of his new, cheap suit. Next, he has his possessions. He has his English dictionary, its spine broken. He has his copy of The Grapes of Wrath. He has his library card from Camp Alva, which he keeps for reasons he cannot explain. They are marched to the Alva depot, the same platform where they arrived in the suffocating heat, confused and terrified. Now they are quiet, anxious. The guards from the work details are there to see them off. Smitty, the older guard, even tips his cap. "Good luck, Fritz," he says. "Try not to start any more trouble." The train journey east is the reverse of the one that brought them here. But this time, they are not staring out the window in disbelief. They are staring in calculation. They see the undamaged houses, the new automobiles, the tractors in the fields, and they are not stunned by the propaganda. They are memorizing the engineering. They are not soldiers. They are unwilling students of the victor's world. They are processed through Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. They are marched up the gangplank of another transport ship. As the vessel groans and pulls away from the pier, it steams past the Statue of Liberty. The men crowd the rails, their new brown suits flapping in the wind. They stare at the green copper icon. It is not the symbol of freedom their GIs fought for. To them, it is a strange, cold monument to the nation that was their university, their factory, their canteen, and their jailer. A country so rich it could afford to be humane. The voyage is 12 days. The mood is not celebratory. It is a funeral dirge. Every knot of speed the ship makes, it is bringing them closer to the ruins they have only seen in photographs. The ship docks, Le Havre, France. Eric steps onto the deck, the US dollars a heavy weight in his pocket. The New York skyline had shocked him with its life. Le Havre shocks him with its death. The harbor is a forest of sunken masts. The city is not a city. It is a horizon of pulverized gray stone. There is not a single building standing. It is the Dresden of his aunt's letters. It is the Buchenwald newsreel, but for architecture. They are marched off the ship. French civilians, thin, dressed in threadbare clothes, stop to watch. They do not spit this time. Their eyes are not filled with hatred. They are hollow, dead. They stare at the column of Germans, healthy, well-fed, clean-shaven, and wearing new suits, with a raw, agonizing envy. A small, dirty child, his feet wrapped in rags, runs up to the column, his hand out. Cigarette, monsieur, un soldat, bonbon. A U.S. soldier gently shoves the child back. Eric realizes the truth. He, the defeated, the prisoner, is the richest, safest, and best-fed man in this entire devastated port. The final irony is waiting at the railhead. An American MP chewing his gum points with his clipboard. All right, you guys, load 'em up. Waiting for them is a line of 40 and 8 boxcars, the same cattle cars they had dreaded on the journey to the camp. They are finally getting their cattle cars for the journey home. Eric climbs in, the door sliding shut, plunging them into the familiar, sour darkness. The train lurches, its whistle shrieks, and it begins the slow, rattling journey east toward the border of the British zone, toward the rubble of Bavaria. He sits in the dark, his hand on the $142 in his pocket. He was captured as a soldier of the Herrenvolk. He is returning as a skilled agricultural student who knows how to conjugate English verbs and read John Steinbeck. He is returning to a place that does not exist, armed with money he cannot spend and skills for a world that is not his. The train rattles on. The war, Eric Miller finally understands, was not the true education. The golden cage was, and the lesson was simple. They had not just been defeated. They had been completely and bafflingly overcome.